If you're learning how to drive and accidentally do something wrong, can you get arrested? It's almost impossible to get arrested for a traffic stop unless you're intoxicated or you try to fight the cop. Almost all driving errors are infractions, not even misdemeanors, so they don't have associated jail time. You will be held liable just as if you had a license. In some cases, the driver instructing you can also be liable. That is why you should plan practice sessions to start in light traffic and in familiar areas. It can depend on the police officer if they let you go or not, but all those things you described would be a ticket at worst. Unless you're also driving drunk, have drugs in the car, punch the cop, then you'll go to jail. But provided you're civil and all that, usually the cops will work with you to not even give you a ticket. My first time driving, I overturned on a right and then somehow wound up on the sidewalk. I was immediately pulled over, but once the cop figured out that I was just learning to drive, he let me go. I have a story that might help. I was a driving instructor for 5 years. I had this kid that was clearly on the spectrum. I'm not saying that to be mean. We pulled out onto the first road and he was all over the place. Across lines, speeding, going way too slow. In hindsight, he had no reason to be out on the road. After a mile of driving, the local deputy pulled us over. He gave me the scolding of a lifetime. No tickets. But he basically said this kid had no business being on the road, which was fair. Cops will give a student driver vehicle a big pass, assuming it's a teaching moment. But they'll also be sure to say something to the instructor that is with them. No tickets, but they'll definitely give them the what for. I studied UK law, and vaguely remember a case that set out that learner drivers should be judged to the same standard as qualified drivers. Obviously, this only applies to cases that make it to court, and most police officers want to arrest you for minor traffic violations. You forgot to mention where in the world you live in to begin with. Traffic violations usually end up with a ticket, not an arrest. It'll be okay. Keep on mind that regardless of your license status, your actions have consequences for other drivers, cyclists, pedestrians, etc. If you bump into another car, that car is still damaged, and you've ruined that person's day regardless of whether you have a learner's permit or a full driver's license. If you run a red light and hit someone, that person could be injured or killed, and you could be, too. You being a student driver might make that more understandable, but it doesn't make them any less dead. I say this not to scare you, but because that's just the reality of driving. I was terrified when I first started driving, and it was helpful to me to build up my skills in areas without a lot of traffic, so I could focus on building up the muscle memory of all the things you have to coordinate while driving. Best of luck with your learning, have fun, and be safe. I got pulled over when I was driving with my learner's permit with my mom. Ran a red light while following a semi-truck too closely and couldn't see it. Cop used it as a teaching moment and sent me on my way without a ticket. You have to really screw it up before that is even considered. Can you get in trouble and arrested? In trouble, yes. Arrested? Not likely. There are sentencing laws in the US which identify minimum and maximum punishments people can receive for different crimes. I don't believe there are any which include jail time for driving offensives without aggravating circumstances. Hell, even speeding in an active school zone is only like 500 in fines. They'll understand since you're still learning, right? Ideally, the person sitting next to you will be the second set of eyes helping teach you how to not break the law. That's the reason why you have to get a permit before you get a license. You have someone more experienced guiding you before you're on your own. Ticketed, yes. You wouldn't to go jail unless you kill a pedestrian or something like that. Maybe if you kill someone. Yes, you will get a ticket, and depending on the number of infractions or seriousness of the accident, it can get worse. Go practice in an empty parking lot. You should find them if you go early in the mornings. You won't get arrested for it, but you'll get a fine for it. As long as no cops see and there's no cameras, you'll be okay. For example, in my country, Australia, you do a test about all the road rules, then you get a learner's permit, and do 120 hours driving with a fully licensed driver. During my 120 hours, I definitely broke a couple rules. Ran a red light once by probably half a second, thought I could beat the yellow light and didn't. Took a bit for me to understand roundabout lanes, so made some mistakes there. Parked an inch too far from the curb lots of times. Forgot to indicate a couple times, etc. Haven't got a ticket yet 2 years later. At the end of the day, as long as you didn't hit anybody and no cops camera saw what you did, you're all good. Mistakes happen, even great drivers will make mistakes. Just try not to make them near a police car or speed camera lol. As my old driving instructor said, the #1 rule of the road is to not hit and to not get hit. Everything else is just best practice. Former traffic cop here. Here's the straight deal. 1. No, you won't get arrested. Unless you're drunk, high, or going double triple the speed limit. Traffic violations are civil infractions and you can't get arrested for them. 2. If you hit someone, there has to be an accident report. And if there's an accident report, you'll get a ticket. 3. Otherwise, cops understand you're learning. They'll give you an instructor talking to, but they aren't going to write a ticket unless you intentionally broke the law. If you're driving on the road with a permit, then you should have a licensed adult with you. Their car, their insurance, their judgment. Being on a nice quiet road in the middle of the day, you're probably okay with a friendly cop. If you should jump through a red light at a busy intersection and kill somebody, you are going to have a bad day. You'll still get a ticket, and if you're violating your learner's permit, you'll get one for that too. Unless you are speeding heavily or intoxicated, you won't be arrested. Felonies are hard to commit driving-wise unless you try to. Like everything, it depends. However, there is no grace period. Once you have your license, you are accountable to all the rules and regulations of the road. As far as if you can get arrested, it's up to the laws in the area that you live. In the US, it's unlikely you will get arrested for a minor traffic infraction, but you can. As a matter of fact, I saw a news report the other day where a cop arrested a lady because she failed to signal her lane change.